What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Bodybuilding. My name is Logan Schultz, and this is Ian Powell. Ian, how's your last 7 days been, bud?
Oh, it's been good, man. Real busy. I think both of us have been getting pretty busy and getting everybody kind of set up, and the year is starting to really kick in. We got competition seasons about to come up. I think April's two shows here in Texas, I believe, that are starting to come up at least. But anyways, competition season's about to come up. Everybody's trying to like frantically get ready for summer, even though they should have been getting ready for summer a few weeks ago or a few months ago. But everything's been good. How about you?
Yeah, it's going well. Other than me injuring my back and dealing with that all week, it's kind of like this thing where it gets better, and then I go do something stupid, and it gets worse. And so it's like I just need to be smart, and I probably need to get some work done on it this week. Um,
And when's the last time you got body work done?
it's been a while. It's been since I haven't gotten anything done since prep, to be honest, and that's primarily just because we spent so much money
Oh
over
yeah,
there and stuff like that. So I've just been
vacation.
trying to, yeah, I've just been trying to not spend unless I absolutely have to. So I'm now to a point to where I probably am going to absolutely have to, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. So today we're going to talk about trusting the process and the coach athlete relationship. Ian, I think you've been filling this one, so I'll let you kick that off, man. What does that mean to you, and what are we talking about here?
I think when it comes to a coach client relationship, there has to be an innate sense of understanding of trusting the process and what that exactly means. We can go into different coaching styles and all sorts of things as far as communication and feedback and stuff like that. But when we're talking about trusting the process, we need to make sure that we have a clear line of communication with all of our athletes and all of our lifestyle people as well. That they feel like they're not just another, um, I guess, check for you to take, and that you're actually having a legitimate relationship with these people, trying to understand their life because we all live different lives. So I think it's important to really try to get inside the athlete and the client and try to really understand and break down some of these things. It's obviously a lot easier when you work with people that are close, maybe you see on a daily basis or a weekly basis. It's a lot harder when you have people that you don't see or that they are outside of Texas or all these things and stuff like that. So, personally, with me, I have two athletes right now in prep that are I do not see. Um, so, for communications and stuff like that, I have to make sure that we set up calls weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is, and we're having constant communication outside of just what's in the app and stuff like that. And I always ask for people whenever I'm communicating with people, I'm trying to make sure that they give me an appropriate amount of feedback. Because I do think a lot of cultures, especially like sports, it's almost like a tough it up approach where it's like, oh man, like it's supposed to suck. I shouldn't say anything. It's just this, it is what it is. But there are certain things that need to be said when it comes to certain things in anything in a either in a prep off season, whatever setting. You need to have that line of communication, that trust that you can say something to your coach, and they're not going to be like, "Oh well, you're just being a puss." Because unfortunately, there are a lot of coaches out there that are just kind of like hard asses, or do as I say. And if there's no way to change it, there's no way to adapt it to that person's lifestyle or work schedule. It's more just like you have to do it this way, or it's not going to happen. So I try to communicate that with my athletes. I'm sure you do as well. That you need to be have full trust in your coach and in your athlete as well. So I think that just starts by having a clear line of communication.
Yeah. Your camera keeps freezing, even though like your voice is very steady and good. Your audio is good. So
I
just so you
better not be
know,
doing that.
yeah, you just keep like freezing and setting still. But yeah, I think you bring up some very valid points. I think first and foremost, when we're talking about a coach athlete relationship, right? Bodybuilding is a lot different than a lot of other sports because we need the communication to gauge things like stress and fatigue and things of that nature because they all very much play a role in how you look. Whereas in a lot of instances they can play a role in your performance as well. But sometimes you can play through those things, even when stress is high, right? Like sometimes that activity can be a stress relief for you. Whereas in bodybuilding, it's very much this balance, this push and pull, and there has to be a good level of communication when we're talking about helping somebody achieve, their goals, and especially considering that there's so much variability from person to person. There really is no one size fits all. So communication is an absolute must. But from a client's perspective, if there is not a foundation of trust and you have a tendency to ask other people um, about your coach's decisions, and sometimes I get it, like people just want to learn and they kind of want to understand. The person to ask about the decisions that are being made is your coach. Okay. You shouldn't be asking other coaches. The problem with asking other coaches is that unless you have, so let's say one of your clients comes to me and asks me a question about something that you made a decision for. Unless I have every single check-in that you have done since you've been with them, and I know every single move that has been made, and I'm getting all the exact same information, I cannot provide a valuable opinion or a correct opinion. I wouldn't say correct opinion. I can't provide a valuable opinion on the decisions that are being made because I don't know what's going on, right? I don't have the entire picture. So if you go and say, hey, like, here's where my food is, do you think this is low? I don't know. And if
Mm,
anybody tells you yes or no, they're a bad coach. Like, I'm sorry. They are. I
mm,
don't trust them. Okay. It is what it
yeah,
is. But all you're doing is you're now sowing seeds of doubt in your mind about your coach and his or her process. And the reality is that um, there's hundreds of ways to do this. And some ways are like they can all yield the same result because everybody is so vastly different that it's never the same. It's even your own body from one prep to another can be vastly different.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So you hired your coach for a reason. Trust them, and if in the end it doesn't work out and you don't think that the problems that you had can be fixed, then by all means fire that coach and move on.
Yeah, I agree. It's very it happens a lot actually, especially at the amateur level where people
Yep.
will just reach out and be like, "Oh, is what is this like?" Or and ask other people and stuff like that. But you're right. If you don't have all the information, all the data, there's nothing that you can say that that it should where it's at, whether it be diet, supplementation, whatever it is where it should be at based on what you've been previously shown.
Mhm.
So I think it's important for people to have that context in mind. And yeah, if you have a question about something, just ask your coach. And if you don't have that level of confidence and respectability and all those sort of things with your coach, maybe that's just not a good fit for you, and that's okay. But you need
Yep.
to have that communication with that coach and be able to move on instead of asking your gym peer or somebody about like, oh, is this your food low? It's like, oh, yeah, I mean that food might be low for me, but it might be okay for you. Like we don't
Yep.
know where you're coming from.
Yep. I, I will say that there is kind of one caveat here to talking to other people about what's going on. And it's if you suspect, like, let's say you're not one of us and you're not extremely knowledgeable in what can and can't hurt you and what you should or shouldn't be doing in regards to PEDs or whatever it is, right? If you suspect that your coach is asking you to do something that could be harmful or you just don't know, um, and you ask them and then they're like, oh yeah, like it's fine, like then maybe you get a second opinion, right? Like it's like if
Mm,
you get a cancer diagnosis, you're probably going to go get a second opinion, right?
right.
So in that scenario, right, like let's say your coach says, hey, I want you to start using DMP, and you ask them and they're like, yeah, it's totally safe, but well come ask me and I'm going to tell you that no, I don't care what the decision process looks like, you shouldn't be using DMP. um, and I'm going to tell you that straightforward. But in situations like that, I think that it's acceptable when you just need to know about your health, right? Because there are bad coaches out there, and there are coaches that will absolutely screw you up.
Yes, especially with the PED side of things, where PEDs work, but doesn't mean you need to take all of them and all of them at their highest dosages and all of them at the starter prep. Right, everything's should be in a titrated some form of fashion. But there's a lot of coaches where they might have access or they may have something to this, and they might just say, hey, this, and this, and we're going to run it for 16 weeks, and you're going to be peeled. And then by the time the show comes around and post show and all that sort of things, then that's where you see a lot of these people that do a show or two and they never do it again.
And they turn out to hate bodybuilding because their coach absolutely screwed them up. He got them good results, but he destroyed them mentally and physically, and it took them forever to come back to get to a normal baseline.
Mhm.
He or she, I'm not just going to point out male coaches there, but and it's really sad to see. And unfortunately, like, you may think someone's a good coach, and if you're new to this, like, you don't really know, right? So I think that there can be caveats to asking around and asking other people, but in today's world, where we have social media, like, you can ask other people's clients, like, before you hire someone, and not only ask their current clients, ask clients that have fired them. If you reach out to me and you say, hey, do you mind giving me a couple of people that to reach out to that you no longer work with, I have no problem doing that, because at the end of the day, like, we need to make, if this relationship doesn't, if there's not trust and respect there, like, the relationship is never going to work. And if you need to talk to somebody that fired me to make sure that that trust and respect is there, I'm fine.
Yep. I think that's just gonna be one of those things that that has to be said. I mean, there's a lot of, I think we're on the topic of just red flags and stuff when we're talking about coaches, but we also see this too at the same time where we see athletes jump from coach to coach, and there's a lot of that in this culture. What would you say if an athlete is considered switching coaches, and if they have a history of doing multiple shows or doing every year with a different coach? How do we approach somebody that comes from this background, or maybe you're the third coach in 1 year?
Yeah, I think that um, we need to find out why. Like, let's say I'm onboarding a coach and I find out that they've been through 3 coaches in a year. I need to find out why. What is the reasoning? Like, did your personalities not mesh? Was the coach asking you to do something that you didn't like? Like,
Mhm.
um, I've met some people that leave coaches because the coach was just too busy, and they didn't they were taking 2 and 3 days to respond to them. To me, that's perfectly acceptable. Like, I don't want to be with somebody that's going to take 2 or 3 days to respond to a check-in.
Mm.
That tells me that you're entirely too busy or you're very disorganized, and I'm not gonna like either. And then what happens when it comes down to show week and show day? Are you going to be just as late to respond? So, like, I think that that's where you start is figuring out why, right? Because if they say, oh, well, he didn't peak me right, well, that tells me that you didn't stick with that coach long enough for him or her to learn your physique and learn how to properly peak you, right? Because
Yeah.
most of the time, uh, there's a large chance of something going wrong and us not nailing the peak the first time around. It's just the reality of things, right? Everybody's body responds very differently. We don't know how you are going to be mentally backstage, and things like that. And so,
Timing of the
once
show and stuff.
timing of the show, right? Like, once we know those things, and once we kind of have like an idea of how you respond, um, then we can then we're going to be able to make better decisions and bring you in better.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point with people talking about, oh, this coach didn't peak me right, so I moved on. It's like, well, you've only done one peak with him, two,
Yeah.
he or she, three. Like, it takes multiple times to really, give yourself the ultimate look, and things might change. I mean, if you nailed on your first peak, great for you, man. That's awesome. Does it happen? Sure. Does it not happen? Yeah. But chances are, if you miss your peak for whatever reason, um, I wouldn't say that's a reason to hop off ship. I would just say make more communication with that
Yep.
coach and make sure, especially if your coach was like really like in it. Now, if your
Mhm.
coach missed your peak and they were like not responding, or they were super
Yep.
late, or they were not being attentive, okay,
Sure.
yeah, missed your peak, yeah, go ahead, and you can have that communication. Be like, hey man, like I'm gonna move, I'm gonna move on because I just feel like I just didn't get that attention that last week. I was stressing about what food, so I just kept eating whatever last week meals were on
Yep.
show day because you didn't give me a plan. So
And you
from
didn't
that
communicate.
perspective, yeah, I can definitely see that.
Hmm.
But if they're trying and if they're working with you,
Yeah.
chances are that you'll get it.
I'm going to go ahead and also say this. Well, there's two other situations that kind of drive me nuts. Um, if you like your look leading into peak week and you think that you look good, but then you lose on stage, don't all of a sudden then claim to have missed your peak. Okay. Like you looked good. Now, unless things went really, really awry, but if you looked good and you're happy with things going into prejudging and stuff like that, like you're looking at yourself and you're like, damn, I look good. And then you don't place where you want to place, don't blame that shit on your peak. You're just not good enough yet. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's part of the
Second,
process.
secondly, when the show is over with and you go and you eat a bunch of food, you do not look better the next day. You might look better in that bathroom lighting, but you will not look better under stage lighting. I promise you. All of that water and that film, it'll all be very visible under those direct lights that are meant to wash you out and they're meant to show every little flaw you have.
Mhm.
You won't have that same detail because not only that, you don't have oil on, you don't have you've already washed your tan off a bit. Like so there's coats of things that are on your skin that are no longer on your skin. Um so stop saying you missed your peak because you think you look better in your bathroom lighting when you had a bunch of sodium and water and a bunch of shitty carbs.
So you're saying like if I don't hit my peak right and I don't place well and I go eat pizza, then I go the next day I'm like, wow, I look way better. I should have peaked with pizza.
Yeah.
If that would have gone well. No, I really think the days of that are pretty gone unless you have a lot of experience with a specific person and you know their body really well. But other than that,
Yeah, the
there's no need to
reality
do
is
any of that.
that like you're in a very like when you're looking at yourself the day after, you don't have oil on, you've already washed a good bit of your tan off. So there's two layers of things that are sitting on your skin that now aren't. Not only that, but you're not under those really bright lights, so you're not seeing every flaw. You're in down lighting in a bathroom that's creating shadows, so of course you look better. That makes sense.
Yep.
But if you go step on a stage right then and there, you're not going to look better. And that's what I'm getting at. Is like this is not a better look for the stage. It's a better walking around look, but it's not a better look for the stage.
It's a better beach body look. That's what I usually tell people.
Yeah.
It's like that's a beach body. That's like when you want to go to the beach, right? And you have something like that, and you're leaning, and you go like, "Oh yeah, I look good." And
Yep.
no one gives a shit about they can't see like the subcutaneous water that's underneath
Yep.
your lower abs. No, that's not what they're looking at. That's not what bodybuilding is. So absolutely with that. What about the importance of going over check-ins with people and adjusting macros and stuff like that, as far as trusting the process? Because I feel like a lot of people don't understand macros. Say if they get a meal plan and they can see that, but I don't know if you've ever dealt a lot with macro coaching, where some people are just they don't understand macros. So having to break that down as far as trusting the coach side of things. How do you kind of go about when you have clients like that? These are more lifestyle people.
So I don't ever do macro coaching. Um, and what I mean by that is that I give everybody a meal plan, and in the system that we use, it tells them their macros, and I kind of tell everybody like, hey, I'm going to give you a specific meal plan, but just know that you can have some variability within these meals. Like I provide a list of appropriate substitutions, like if you want to do rice pasta instead of rice, whatever the case is, like you just need to make sure that the macros match. But by and large, like this is kind of what you need to be eating. I don't do just straight like I'm giving a person macros only.
Mhm.
That's just how I. Uh, that's just how I do things.
Yeah, because I do know a lot of people, and I do think there comes a level of experience when it comes to actually doing macros in a bodybuilding setting. Like you have to be a very well experienced person. Like I know Paul did macros for a long time. I don't know if he still does.
Hmm.
But like again, he's somebody who, like extremely knowledgeable and is tracking that stuff every day. Personally, I don't like tracking macros because I don't like thinking. I like going on a meal plan and say if I have 50 grams of raw wheat rice, I'll just swap that for potatoes or noodles or something like that. Like it's not like
That's what I do.
and I think we both try to communicate to people that like just because it says chicken, right, doesn't mean it has to be chicken. It can be turkey, it can be lean ground beef, it can be some of these things. Now, what I tell people not is that if it says chicken, that doesn't mean I want you to have salmon or fatty steak or something like that because they're not correlating.
Yeah,
They're
I
not
put down at
those
the
aren't the same.
bottom. I put in the meal in the notes. I say, um, I say chicken is planned, but it can be swapped out for 99 one ground turkey, a whitefish, shrimp, things like that, like leaner proteins, right? We're not swapping chicken out for like salmon or a
Steak.
higher fatty beef, stuff like that. Like it just that's not a proper substitution.
Hmm.
Now, if you have chicken and you have olive oil in your plan and you can make your beef fit and you're just not going to have the olive oil, sure, that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But
Or just make it a little more
that's
complicated than it needs to be.
that's yeah, you're making it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. Yeah, I agree with that. So, yeah, and I think that a lot of people, like when they hear Paul say that he does macros, Paul eats a bodybuilding diet, but Paul just like he just kind of swaps in and out things to more of a macro style thing. So he does it a lot more like we do it, in that he's still eating whole foods and stuff like that, but he just has a little bit more room. Like if he wants to have a muffin or something like that, then he'll have it, and he
Yeah.
just pulls out the macros. So he allows himself more leniency, but it's not a truly like if it fits your macros style.
Yeah.
It's what I would call something that's appropriate for an off season, I guess you could say. Um, and he's just not as regimented with it. Now, I think he's trying to do things a little bit differently this year. I'm not 100% certain. I know he was, anyways. Not
Mhm.
100% certain if he's still doing that or not. But
Yeah, I think it's when it comes to like the meal swapping thing, it's just that you have to be understand exactly what you're doing whenever you are swapping these meals and stuff like that. I think macros is, I mean, I did macros in college, but again, like I wasn't quite doing bodybuilding. I think for lifestyle people, if you want to teach yourself about it, you can. I think the careful thing with macros is that some macros, it more or less becomes a digestion thing, right? You start eating more muffins, you start eating more Rice Krispies, you start eating just more things that you wouldn't that technically fit your macros, but all of a sudden you're like, like kind of like your digestion's off or something like that. The more you know yourself, the more you already kind of know that.
yeah,
Um, but again, it's not trying to fit your macros, so it's more of these more processed carbs or proteins and fats and stuff like that.
yeah, you should very much still be using whole foods and
Yep.
staying away from as much processed stuff as possible. I don't mind a little bit of processed foods. There are some things that I have people eat. We discovered these Bobos PB and J things, and we've talked about Bobos before.
Bubble bars.
Yeah. But they have a PB and J one, and
I don't think I've seen that one.
they're really good. They're really, really
Huh.
good. And I mean, from what I remember, the ingredient list isn't completely terrible. Like it's, oats. It's an oat bar. Did you find them? They have strawberry and grape. They sell them at HEB.
Yeah, there's a cranberry orange oatmeal.
I haven't seen that.
Jesus.
HEB has oatmeal, strawberry and grape.
Yeah, there's a grape jam one.
Yep,
But oat bars, PB and J's grape jam, 230 calories, 8 fat, 39 carb, 4 protein. Ingredients. Oh, here they are. Yeah, whole grain rolled oats, rice syrup, cane sugar, peanut butter, coconut oil, vegetable, glycerin, grape juice. Yeah, I mean it's
it's
all
not
pretty
terrible.
decent. Yeah, it's not bad, but that's good for off season setting, trying to pack a
Yeah,
little, or if you're traveling
yeah.
or whatever and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, so I generally give that to people for like an easier grab and go meal. Like I try to give everybody one of those, like an easier meal to eat that's like grab and go. They don't have to cook anything.
Mhm.
So like a protein shake and Rice Krispies, or a protein shake and a boba bar or something like that.
Yeah,
But definitely an off season thing, and I'm not passing that around, in a prep setting. Maybe in the early weeks of prep, but not as we get closer and closer. That's getting removed.
yeah. I think transitioning from the off season or health phase or whatever. Let's just say you're just transitioning straight from off season into a prep.
Yep.
Um, it could be, mindful to kind of wean yourself into it. Some people can flip the switch,
Mhm.
not a big deal. It also depends on your baseline. If your baseline's super shit from the off season, then you might want to clean things up a bit quicker. But if you have a little more leeway, then you can kind of ease
Yeah.
yourself a little bit in with some of these things like that, or a muffin workout, or some of these things just to kind of make things easier to kind of go into. But again, it also depends where your baseline comes from. If I have somebody that's like 50, 60 pounds over stage weight, and they're going to give me 20 weeks. Yeah, man, sorry.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a fun time.
you're not going to transition into it, and you might as well buy a stairmaster, because you're gonna need some hard cardio. Which that's another topic we need to talk about. We need later on. We need to add that one. We had to add different types of cardio and stuff like that, and people that are doing cardio, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not actual cardio.
Yep.
Like mowing your lawn is not cardio, by the way.
No, no, it's not.
It might burn calories and it might be hard because it might be
Yep.
physically exerting. Sorry, the most you get out of that is steps.
Yep. Yeah, it's not cardio.
Yeah, it's not. But I don't think there's anything else that we have as far as this.
Do you have somebody
Just
telling you that they did cardio? They mowed their lawn instead of cardio?
no, not me.
Oh, I was about to say.
No, I was just doing. I was trying to say an example.
Oh,
What's
oh
another example?
man.
Oh, like say I'm a cart person at
I was about to
HEB.
talk some shit to somebody.
Yeah, no, I'm a cart person at
Yeah.
HEB, and I'm moving
Oh,
carts.
that's good.
Yeah,
That's part of your normal
yeah,
activity, bud.
yeah. That's hit. You're doing hit actually.
Yeah. You're running with the carts through the parking lot
Yeah, you're
normally?
sprinting them up. You're
Yeah,
sprinting them
yeah,
up. Yeah, he's like, I'm trying to get it done faster. But I think with this trust the process thing, I think it's just you
yeah.
have to communication's obviously key. Don't hold anything back. Don't be afraid of your coach. Be honest with them. Tell them everything, even if they shut you down or whatever. If or expect a more brutal response, you might be surprised by the response they give you. I think me and you both can attest to that from having pro high amateur level coaches. That you communicate with them, and they're not going to be like, "You're a fucking idiot." Like, why would you do that? They're going to be like yes or no, or explain why this and that. And I think that's important when you find a coach is not only someone that can give you plans, give you directions, communicate well, but also communicate why you're doing something. Because chances are, if you don't understand why you're doing it, your motivation, desire, dedication to do that is going to be a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Well, cool. I think that wraps up that whole topic there.
I think it does.
So later, alligator.
Later, Gators.